The space station floated in the darkness above a giant purple planet. It was huge, with metal arms stretching out in all directions. This was the Galactic Preservation Station, home to the most dangerous creatures in the entire galaxy. Ships came and went every day, bringing new animals from distant worlds. But today was different. Today they were bringing something that made even the bravest soldiers afraid. Jake Morrison stood by the large window, looking out at the approaching ship. He was a tall man with brown hair and calm eyes. His jacket was old and worn from years of work. He had been a zookeeper on this station for 5 years now, and he had seen many strange creatures. But nothing like what was coming today. "You cannot be serious about this," said Dr. Helen Price. She was standing next to him, her 4 eyes blinking rapidly. Helen was not human. She came from a world where people had blue skin and extra eyes. Right now, all 4 of those eyes showed fear. 17 people have died trying to control that thing. 17 good handlers, all dead. Jake kept looking at the ship. "Then I guess I will be number 18. This is not funny, Jake. That creature killed my friend. Tore him apart in seconds. I know. I read the reports. And you still want to do this?" Jake turned to look at her. "Want to? No. But someone has to try. They are going to destroy it if we cannot prove it can be controlled." Helen made a sound of frustration. "Maybe they should destroy it. Some things are too dangerous to live. Everything deserves a chance, Helen. Even monsters." The radio on the wall crackled to life. A man's voice came through. "This is Commander Liu Chen of the transport ship Nightfall. We are ready to begin transfer of the cargo. Please confirm you are ready to receive." Jake walked to the radio and pressed the button. "We are ready, Commander. Begin transfer when you are prepared. I have to tell you, Morrison, I have carried weapons that scared me less than this creature. I will be happy when it is off my ship." "Understood. We will take good care of it." "Good care?" The transfer took a long time. Jake watched through cameras as the creature was moved from the ship to the station. It was inside a massive metal box, surrounded by energy fields and sleeping gas. Even unconscious, it looked deadly. Guards with heavy weapons stood ready, their fingers on triggers. Slowly, carefully, they brought the box into the station. It moved through the hallways on magnetic rails, floating a few inches off the ground. Jake followed it to the special habitat that had been built. The habitat was huge, with walls made of the strongest metal in the galaxy. Energy barriers covered every surface. If the creature tried to escape, it would take hours to break through. Hours that would give them time to activate the emergency systems. The box was positioned in the center of the habitat. Jake stood in the control room with Helen and 6 other staff members. Everyone was tense, watching screens that showed every angle of the room below. "Release the creature," Jake said. A technician named Barry looked at him. "Are you sure? We could keep it sedated for a few more days." "No. It needs to wake up in its new home, not in a box." Barry pressed buttons on his console. The metal box began to open, its sides folding down slowly. Gas poured out, white and thick. For a moment, they could see nothing through the cloud. Then it emerged. Jake had seen pictures, had read descriptions, had studied videos. None of it prepared him for seeing the creature in person. It was massive, 30 meters, from nose to tail. Its body was covered in black scales that looked like they were made of night itself. But between the scales, metal plates gleamed silver and gold. Wires ran under its skin, glowing with blue light. Its wings were folded against its sides, but Jake could see rocket engines built into them. The creature's head was the size of a car. Its mouth held teeth like swords. Its eyes opened slowly, and they burned red like fire. Those eyes looked around the habitat, taking in every detail. Then they fixed on the window where Jake stood. For a long moment, human and creature stared at each other. "That is TX-9, Helen said quietly. "Also known as Devastator. created by the Kryn Empire as a weapon. Part living tissue, part machine, all killer. Jake could not look away from those red eyes. There was something in them. Not just anger or hate. Something else. Something that looked almost like thought. Its breath can melt steel, Helen continued. Its claws can cut through spaceship hulls. It has 3 different weapons in its mouth. Fire, acid, and an energy blast that destroys all electronics. And it is smart, Jake. Too smart. It understands tactics, plans ahead, sets traps. How was it captured? Jake asked. It was not captured. When the Kryn Empire fell, TX-9 was left behind on a destroyed planet. It had killed everyone on that world. The Galactic Council sent a team to recover it. Half the team died. They only succeeded because they dropped a building on it. Below, TX-9 was exploring its new home. It moved slowly, its claws clicking on the metal floor. Every few steps, it would stop and test the walls with its nose or claws. It was learning the space, finding weaknesses. "What is your plan?" asked Barry. Jake smiled. "I am going to talk to it." Everyone in the control room turned to stare at him. "Talk to it?" Helen's voice was high with disbelief. "Jake, that thing does not talk. It kills. Everything talks, Helen. You just have to know how to listen." Jake started walking toward the door. Helen grabbed his arm. "Wait. At least wait a few days. Let it calm down first." "No. The longer we wait, the more time it has to see us as enemies. I need to start now, while everything is new." "This is insane." "Probably." Jake gently removed her hand from his arm. "But insane is what I do best." He left the control room and walked down the corridor to the habitat. His heart was beating fast, but his hands were steady. He had been afraid before. Fear was part of the job. The trick was not letting fear stop you. The outer chamber of the habitat was separated from the inner chamber by an energy wall. The wall looked like water made of light, shimmering and blue. It was strong enough to stop a missile. Jake hoped it was strong enough to stop TX-9 if the creature decided to attack. He stepped into the outer chamber. Immediately, TX-9's head turned toward him. The creature's body went still. Every muscle tensed. A deep sound came from its chest, part growl and part machine hum. Jake walked slowly to the center of the chamber. He stopped about 3 meters from the energy wall. TX-9 was on the other side, close enough that Jake could see his reflection in those burning red eyes. "Hello," Jake said, keeping his voice calm and friendly. TX-9 did not move. It just stared at him. "I know you have had a bad time," Jake continued. "People have hurt you, tried to control you with pain and force. I am not going to do that." End quote. The creature's eyes narrowed. Its tail, thick as a tree trunk, moved slowly from side to side. "I have been reading about you," Jake said. "You were made to be a weapon. The Kryn Empire built you to destroy their enemies. But the Empire is gone now, and you are still here. That has to mean something." 1. TX-9 took a step closer to the energy wall. Then another. Jake could feel the heat coming off its body, could smell oil and ozone and something else, something organic and alive. "You have killed people," Jake said. "I know that. I am not going to pretend it did not happen. But I also know that every single time you killed, it was because someone was trying to hurt you or force you to do something. You were defending yourself." The creature's head tilted slightly to one side. It was listening. Actually listening. "I am not going to hurt you," Jake said. "And I am not going to force you to do anything. But I am going to ask you to learn, to change, to become more than what you were made to be." TX-9 opened its mouth slightly. Jake could see the glow of heat inside, could see the weapon systems charging. One blast and the energy wall might not hold. One blast, and Jake would die. But TX-9 did not fire. Instead, it closed its mouth again and sat down. The posture was not aggressive. It was curious. Jake smiled. That is a good start. A very good start. In the control room, Helen was watching with her mouth open. I do not believe this. It should have attacked by now. Barry nodded. Every other handler was attacked within 30 seconds. Jake has been in there for 5 minutes. What is he doing different? I think, said Barry slowly. He is treating it like a person, not a weapon. Below, Jake was still talking to TX9, his voice steady and calm. And the most dangerous creature in the galaxy sat and listened, its red eyes never leaving the human who dared to speak to it without fear. 3 weeks had passed since TX9 arrived at the station. Every morning, Jake entered the outer chamber and talked to the creature. He told stories about his life on Earth, about the animals he had worked with, about his family and friends. He never tried to touch TX9. He never entered the inner chamber where the creature lived. He just talked. The other workers on the station thought he was crazy. They watched on cameras and shook their heads. Some made bets on how long Jake would last before TX9 attacked him. Others simply avoided the habitat area, not wanting to be nearby when disaster struck. But disaster did not strike. Instead, something strange began to happen. TX9 started to change. At first, the changes were small. The creature stopped positioning itself to attack when Jake entered. The low, growling sound it made disappeared. Most interesting of all, TX9 began moving closer to the energy wall when Jake arrived, as if it wanted to hear better. Helen watched this with growing confusion. She had studied animal behavior for 20 years, had worked with hundreds of species. Nothing in her experience explained what was happening. It does not make sense, she said to Jake one day. TX9 is a weapon system. Half its brain is computer code. It should not respond to simple conversation. Jake was eating lunch in the cafeteria. He took a bite of his sandwich and smiled. Maybe that is the problem. Everyone keeps calling it a weapon system. What if it is more than that? What do you mean? TX9 has organic parts, right? A living brain mixed with the computer parts. What if the organic brain is like ours? What if it feels things, thinks things, wants things? Impossible. The Kryn Empire would have removed such traits. They make weapons less efficient. Maybe they tried, Jake said. Or maybe they could not remove them completely. Life finds a way, Helen, even when people try to stop it. That afternoon, Jake entered the habitat as usual. TX9 was waiting by the energy wall, its massive head lowered to Jake's height. The creature's red eyes tracked Jake as he walked to his usual spot. Good afternoon, Jake said. I have been thinking about what to talk about today. How about I tell you about my first pet? Cast. TX9's eyes brightened slightly. Jake had learned that this meant the creature was interested. I was 7 years old. My parents wanted me to have a pet, to learn responsibility. So, we went to an animal shelter. There were dogs and cats and rabbits, all of them cute and friendly. But I did not want any of them. Jake sat down on the floor, crossing his legs. TX9 moved closer to the energy wall. In the back of the shelter, they had a dog that nobody wanted. His name was Max. He was old and scared and angry. He had been hurt by his previous owner. He growled at everyone who came near. The shelter workers said he was too dangerous, that they would have to put him to sleep soon. TX9 made a sound, not a growl, something softer. I asked if I could meet him. My parents said no, that he would bite me, but I insisted. So they let me go into his cage, with a worker standing nearby, in case something bad happened. Jake paused, remembering that day so many years ago. Max growled at me, showed his teeth. He was so scared, so angry at the world. But I just sat down and talked to him. I told him I understood, that I knew what it felt like to be afraid. I promised him that if he came home with me, nobody would ever hurt him again. What happened? A voice asked. Jake jumped, startled. He turned to see Barry standing in the doorway of the outer chamber. "Sorry," Barry said. "I did not mean to interrupt. I was just checking the sensors." "But I want to know what happened with the dog," Jake smiled. Max stopped growling. He came over and sniffed my hand. Then he licked it. I took him home that day. He lived with my family for 10 more years. He was the best dog I ever had. TX9 made that soft sound again. Then something incredible happened. The creature moved even closer to the energy wall and made a new sound. A chirping noise. High and clear. Jake stood up slowly. "Did you just try to talk to me?" TX9 chirped again. Barry's mouth fell open. "That is impossible. TX9 has never made that sound before. I have reviewed all the recordings. It only growls or makes machine noises." Jake's heart was racing with excitement. "You want to communicate. Is that right, TX9? The creature chirped once. "Can you understand my words?" One chirp. "Barry, how many chirps was that?" One. Jake turned back to TX9. "All right. Let me try something. If you understand me, chirp once for yes and twice for no. Can you do that?" TX9 chirped once. Jake felt tears come to his eyes. This was bigger than he had hoped for. "Are you angry at me?" Two chirps. "Do you want to hurt me?" Two chirps. "Do you want to leave this habitat?" One chirp. "Would you be willing to work with me? To learn control? To show people that you are more than just a weapon?" TX9 did not answer right away. Its red eyes stared into Jake's eyes. Seconds passed. Jake held his breath. Then, slowly and clearly, TX9 chirped once. Jake let out the breath he had been holding. "Then we have an agreement. You and me. Partner." The news spread through the station like fire. Within an hour, everyone knew that TX9 had communicated with Jake. Scientists arrived to study the recordings. Diplomats sent messages to the Galactic Council. The station commander, a stern woman named Patricia Hughes, called Jake to her office. "Explain to me what happened," Patricia said. She was sitting behind her desk, her fingers pressed together. Jake told her everything. About the daily conversations. About the story of Max. About the chirping. Patricia listened without interrupting. When Jake finished, she leaned back in her chair. "You know what this means. Do you not? That TX9 is intelligent? More than that. If TX9 can communicate, can make choices, can understand consequences, then it might be considered a person under galactic law. Not a weapon. Not property. A person." Jake had not thought that far ahead. "It is complicated. The Kryn Empire created TX9 as property. When the Empire fell, TX9 became salvage, owned by the Galactic Council. But if TX9 is a person, then keeping it locked up might be illegal. So it could go free?" Patricia shook her head. "Not that simple. TX9 has killed people, destroyed property. Even if it is a person, it has committed crimes. There would need to be trials, evaluations, years of legal process. But there is a chance," Jake said. "A chance for TX9 to have a real life. Perhaps. But first, you need to prove that TX9 can be trusted. Communication is one thing. Control is another." Jake nodded. "I understand. What do you need me to do?" "Continue working with it. See if you can teach it to follow commands. If you can do that, we will move to the next step." Over the next few weeks, Jake spent more and more time with TX9. He began teaching the creature basic commands. Sit, stand, come, go. TX9 learned quickly, far faster than any animal Jake had ever worked with. But there were problems. TX9 was not just an animal. Half of its brain was computer code, filled with combat programs and weapon systems. Sometimes these programs activated on their own, fighting against what the organic brain wanted. One day, Jake asked TX9 to extend its wings. The organic part of TX9 obeyed immediately. But then the computer systems kicked in. Weapon ports opened along the wings. Targeting lasers activated. Missile tubes heated up. "Stop," Jake said firmly. "I said, extend wings, not activate weapons." TX9's body shook. It was fighting itself. Organic brain against computer code. Jake could see the strain in its eyes. "You are in control," Jake said, stepping closer to the energy wall. "Not the code. You. You decide what happens." The shaking got worse. For a moment, Jake thought TX9 might explode from the internal conflict. Then, slowly, the weapon systems powered down. The targeting lasers shut off. The missile tubes cooled. TX9 stood there with just its wings extended, breathing hard. "Good," Jake said, his voice full of pride. "That was very good. You won. You beat the programming." TX9 chirped weakly. Jake made a decision. He turned and walked to the control panel on the wall. He pressed a button. "Jake, what are you doing?" Helen's voice came through the speaker, full of alarm. "Opening the energy wall," Jake said. "Are you insane? TX9 could kill you." "TX9 will not kill me. Will you, partner?" Two chirps. "No." Jake pressed the final button. The energy wall flickered and disappeared. For the first time since arriving at the station, TX9 had nothing between itself and a human. It could attack, could kill, could escape. Instead, TX9 lowered its massive head and very gently pressed it against Jake's chest. Jake reached up with both hands and touched TX9's scales. They were warm, smooth, humming with energy. "I trust you," Jake whispered. TX9 made a sound Jake had never heard before. A purr, deep and rumbling. In the control room, Helen was crying. "I do not believe it. That creature was made to destroy. But it is choosing not to." Barry nodded, wiping his own eyes. Jake was right. TX9 is not just a weapon. It is a person. A person who wants to be better than what it was made to be. From that day forward, everything changed. Jake entered the inner habitat regularly. He and TX9 worked together on control exercises. The creature learned to activate and deactivate its various systems on command. It learned to move without threatening, to use its size without intimidating, to be powerful without being dangerous. But the real test was still to come. Because the Galactic Council had heard about TX9's progress, and they wanted proof. They wanted to see if the most dangerous creature in the galaxy could be trusted around others. They were sending a security team to test TX9. And if the creature failed, if it showed any aggression, they had orders to destroy it. The security team arrived on a Tuesday morning. There were 3 of them, all armed with heavy weapons. They wore armor that could stop most attacks, and their faces showed no emotion. These were professional soldiers who had seen combat across the galaxy. Lieutenant Kate Morgan led the team. She was a short woman with sharp eyes and scars on her hands. She had lost friends to dangerous creatures before, and she was not about to become another casualty. Jake met them outside the habitat. "Thank you for coming." Kate looked at him coldly. "We are not here by choice. Command sent us to evaluate the threat level of TX9. If it shows aggression, we are authorized to terminate it. TX9 is not a threat anymore. We will see about that." Kate checked her weapon. "The test is simple. We enter the habitat. If your creature attacks, we defend ourselves. If it does not attack, we leave. That is all? That is all. But understand this, Morrison. The moment I see those weapon systems activate, I fire. I will not risk my team." Jake nodded. "Fair enough. But you need to understand something too. TX9 is intelligent. It will sense your fear, your hostility. You need to stay calm." "I am always calm," Kate said. They entered the outer chamber first. Through the opening to the inner chamber, they could see TX9, The creature was lying down, its wings folded, looking almost peaceful. But as soon as the soldiers entered, its head lifted. Jake walked in front of the soldiers. TX9, these people are here to meet you. They are not going to hurt you. Can you stay calm for me? TX9 did not respond right away. Its eyes moved from Jake to the soldiers and back again. Jake could see the tension in the creature's body. Every muscle was tight. Every sensor was active. I know you are scared, Jake said softly. They have weapons. They smell like danger. All of your instincts are telling you to defend yourself. But I need you to trust me. They are not enemies, Kate whispered to her team. Target locked. Ready to fire on my command. Do not, Jake said sharply. Give TX9 a chance. It is activating systems. I can see the power building. Jake looked at TX9. She was right. Lights were glowing under the creature's scales. Heat was building in its chest. The targeting systems in its eyes were flickering on. TX9, Jake said, his voice steady despite his racing heart. Look at me. Only at me. TX9's eyes shifted to Jake. These people are scared. Just like you were when you first came here. They do not understand you yet. But you can show them. You can prove you are more than your programming. The creature's body was shaking now. Jake could see the war happening inside it. The organic brain wanted to trust Jake. The computer systems wanted to eliminate the threat. Two parts of one being. Fighting for control. You are stronger than your code, Jake said. You have proven it before. You can do it again. Please, partner, I believe in you. Seconds passed. Each one felt like an hour. Kate's finger was on her trigger. The other soldiers were aiming at TX9's vital points. One wrong move, and they would fire. Then TX9 did something that nobody expected. The creature stood up slowly and walked toward the soldiers. Kate started to squeeze her trigger. Wait, Jake said. TX9 stopped right in front of Kate. The creature was so large that Kate barely came up to its chest. It could kill her with one swipe of its claws, could burn her with one breath, could crush her with its weight. Instead, TX9 sat down, folded its wings completely, powered down every weapon system. Then, it lowered its head to the ground, in a posture of total surrender. Kate stared in shock. What is it doing? Showing you it means no harm, Jake said. In animal behavior, this is called a submission display. It is saying that you are not a threat to it. And it is not a threat to you. Kate slowly lowered her weapon. I have never seen anything like this. Because nobody has ever given TX9 a reason to act like this before. Everyone treats it as a weapon. So, it acts like a weapon. But when you treat it as a thinking being, it can choose to be something else. One of the other soldiers, a young man named Peter Cruz, stepped forward. Can I touch it? That is up to TX9, Jake said. What do you think, partner? Will you let Peter touch you? TX9 chirped once. Yes. Peter reached out slowly and placed his hand on TX9's head. The creature's scales were warm and smooth. It is amazing, Peter whispered. Kate watched this scene with growing wonder. She had come here expecting a monster. Instead, she found something that was trying very hard to be gentle. I will write a positive report, Kate said. TX9 passed the test. More than passed it. I have never seen this level of self-control from any creature, let alone one built for war. Jake felt relief wash over him. Thank you. Do not thank me yet. The Galactic Council will want more tests. Harder tests. This was just the beginning. Kate was right. Over the next 2 months, TX9 faced test after test. Scientists came to study its brain structure. Psychologists tried to understand its personality. Military advisors evaluated its combat capabilities and control. Through it all, TX9 remained calm and cooperative. It followed commands. It controlled its weapon systems. It showed that it could make choices and understand consequences. But the biggest test came from an unexpected source. A ship arrived at the station carrying survivors from a Kryn Empire research facility. These were the scientists who had helped create TX-9. They had been found on a distant moon, hiding from war crimes tribunals. Dr. Kelvin Shaw was their leader. He was an old man with cold eyes and a cruel mouth. He had personally overseen TX-9's creation and early training. "I want to see my creation," Kelvin demanded. Patricia Hughes, the station commander, did not want to allow it. "You have no rights here. TX-9 is under our protection now. TX-9 is property of the Kryn Empire. I am a representative of that empire. I have every right. The Kryn Empire no longer exists. Then TX-9 is salvage, and I am claiming it." The legal argument went on for days. Finally, the Galactic Council made a ruling. Kelvin could visit TX-9, but only with supervision, and only if TX-9 agreed to the visit. Jake went to tell TX-9 about the situation. The creature was lying in its habitat, apparently at rest. But when Jake mentioned Kelvin's name, TX-9's reaction was immediate and violent. The creature stood up, its entire body rigid with rage. Weapon systems activated all at once. The temperature in the habitat shot up 20 degrees. A roar came from TX-9's throat, full of hate and pain. "Easy," Jake said, but his heart was pounding. He had never seen TX-9 like this. "Talk to me. What is wrong?" TX-9 roared again, then started pacing back and forth. Its claws dug into the metal floor, leaving deep scratches. "Is it Kelvin? Did he hurt you?" "One Kyrp." "Yes. How bad?" TX-9 stopped pacing and looked at Jake. The pain in its eyes was clear. This was not just physical hurt. This was deep trauma. Jake felt anger rise in his chest. "What did he do to you?" TX-9 could not answer with chirps. But it walked to the wall and used one claw to scratch marks in the metal. Jake counted them. 27 marks. 27 what? Days? Years? TX-9 scratched more. It drew a simple picture. A dragon. Then it drew lines coming from the dragon, spreading out. 27 of you, Jake said, understanding. There were 27 creatures like you. One chirp. What happened to them? TX-9 drew an X through all the other dragons. Only the picture of itself remained. Jake felt sick. He killed them. Kelvin killed the others. One chirp. Why? TX-9 could not explain. But Jake could guess. The Kryn Empire had probably tested their weapons, eliminating the ones that did not perform well enough. TX-9 had survived by being the most effective killer. "I will not let him hurt you again," Jake said. But the Galactic Council's order was clear. Kelvin had the right to visit. Jake had to allow it, whether he wanted to or not. The visit was scheduled for the next day. Jake spent the night with TX-9, trying to keep the creature calm. But TX-9 barely slept. It paced all night, its systems flickering on and off. When Kelvin arrived, he looked at TX-9 with satisfaction. "There it is. My greatest creation. The perfect weapon." "It is not a weapon," Jake said. "TX-9 is a person." Kelvin laughed. "Person? It is a tool. A very expensive, very dangerous tool. And I see you have been trying to break it. I have been helping it. You have made it weak." Kelvin walked closer to the habitat. TX-9. Attack Command Alpha 79. Execute. TX-9. 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 TX-9's body went rigid. Its eyes widened. The command codes were still in its computer systems, buried deep, but not erased. "TX-9, Jake said urgently. "You do not have to obey." "Alpha 79, Kelvin repeated. "Execute now." TX-9 took a step toward the wall, then another. Its weapon systems were activating. The old programming was fighting for control. "No," Jake said, putting himself between TX-9 and Kelvin. "You are better than this. You have proven it. Do not let him win," Kelvin smiled. It cannot resist. The programming is too deep. TX9 will always be what I made it to be. A killer. TX9's mouth opened. Heat built inside. The targeting system locked onto Kelvin. All it would take was one blast, and Kelvin would be dead. Jake did not move. If TX9 fired, he would die too. But he had to believe. Had to trust. Please, Jake whispered. Show him he is wrong. TX9's entire body shook with effort. The heat in its mouth grew hotter. Its claws dug into the floor. Every system screamed to obey the command, to kill the target. Then, with a roar of pure defiance, TX9 shut its mouth. The heat dissipated. The weapon systems powered down. The creature turned away from Kelvin and walked to the far corner of the habitat, where it curled up with its back to them all. Kelvin's face turned red with anger. Impossible. I gave it a direct command. Creasy, and it chose not to obey, Jake said. Because TX9 is not your weapon anymore. It is free. We will see about that. I will have my lawyers contact the council. TX9 belongs to me. After Kelvin left, Jake went into the habitat. TX9 was still curled up, trembling. You did it, Jake said, sitting down next to the massive creature. You beat him. You beat the programming. I am so proud of you. TX9 made a sound like crying. Jake had not known the creature could cry. He put his arms around TX9's neck as much as he could reach. He will not hurt you again. I will make sure of it. One chirp. But it sounded weak, uncertain. Jake knew then what he had to do. It was not enough to train TX9. He had to help the creature become legally free. And that meant taking on the Galactic Council itself. 3 months after Kelvin's visit, the Galactic Council announced their decision. TX9 would be given a final test. If it passed, the Council would consider granting it legal status as a sentient being. If it failed, TX9 would be destroyed. The test would take place at Station Sigma 9, a military training facility 2 weeks of travel away. TX9 would participate in a combat simulation, working alongside soldiers to complete a mission. The creature would have to show it could follow orders, work with others, and most importantly, control its destructive capabilities under stress. Jake did not like the idea. Combat scenarios could trigger TX9's original programming, but he understood why the test was necessary. If TX9 could never be trusted in dangerous situations, it would have to remain locked up forever. And that was just another kind of death. Are you ready for this? Jake asked TX9 the night before they left. TX9 chirped twice. No. Honest answer. I appreciate that. Jake sat down on the floor of the habitat. I am scared too. This test will be hard. They will put you in situations designed to make you react like a weapon. You will want to use maximum force. Every instinct will tell you to destroy everything. TX9 moved closer and lowered its head to Jake's level. But you are stronger than your instincts now. You have proven that. You just have to remember who you are. Not what Kelvin made you, but who you have chosen to become. One chirp. The journey to Sigma 9 was long. TX9 traveled in a special transport ship with Jake. The creature was restless during the trip, pacing in its cargo hold, systems flickering nervously. Jake spent most of the journey with TX9, talking to keep the creature calm. He told stories, made plans for after the test, promised they would find a real home somewhere. When this is over, Jake said, you can go anywhere you want, see any planet, experience freedom. For the first time, TX9 chirped, but the sound was uncertain. You do not believe me? 2 chirps. Why not? TX9 scratched marks on the wall. A cage, then another cage, then another. You think you will always be caged, one way or another. 1 chirp. Jake felt sadness wash over him. TX9 had been trapped its entire life, first by the Kryn Empire, then by the Galactic Council. Even at the preservation station, The creature had been confined. It had never known true freedom. That changes after this test, Jake said firmly. I promise you. Pass this test, and you will be free. Really free. TX9 looked at him with those burning red eyes. Then, it chirped once, a sound full of hope and fear mixed together. Station Sigma 9 was huge, twice the size of the preservation station. It was built for war games, with massive arenas where soldiers could practice combat scenarios. Ships came and went constantly, carrying troops from across the galaxy. Captain Ryan Brooks met them at the docking bay. He was a tall human man with gray hair and tired eyes. TX9 is not a war dragon anymore, Jake said. Right. A reformed war dragon. Even stranger. Ryan pulled out a datapad. The scenario is straightforward. Hostile forces have captured civilians in a fortified compound. Your team needs to extract the civilians with minimal casualties. You will be working with Lieutenant Sam Porter's Special Operations Squad. Who are they? 4 of the best soldiers in the galaxy. They have done missions like this dozens of times, but they have never worked with something like TX9. When do we meet them? Now. Follow me. They walked through the station to a briefing room. 4 soldiers waited inside, all of them looking nervous. Lieutenant Sam Porter was a muscular man with dark skin and suspicious eyes. His 3 team members were named Danny Lee, Marcus Stone, and Nina Hayes. This is your aerial support, Ryan said, gesturing at TX9. Sam looked at the massive creature standing in the doorway. You expect us to work with that thing? TX9 is not a thing, Jake said, his voice sharp. With respect, Morrison, that dragon could turn on us at any moment. How do we know it will not? Because TX9 has had hundreds of chances to hurt people over the past few months. It has not taken any of them. Danny, a young woman with short red hair, spoke up. But this is different. This is combat. Combat triggers instincts. What if its programming takes over? That will not happen, Jake said with more confidence than he felt. Marcus, a large man with scars on his face, shook his head. I have seen what Kryn weapons can do. I lost my entire squad to one. You are asking us to trust something that was designed to kill us. TX9 made a low sound. Not threatening, but sad. The creature could understand every word they were saying. Jake turned to his partner. TX9. They are scared. Can you tell them something to help them trust you? TX9 looked at the soldiers. Then it did something surprising. The creature walked slowly into the room and sat down. It folded its wings tight against its body, powered down all visible weapon systems, and chirped softly. Nina, who had been quiet until now, stepped forward. What was that sound? TX9's way of saying hello, and of saying it means no harm. Nina reached out slowly and touched TX9's scales. The creature remained perfectly still. It is warm. I thought it would be cold, like a machine. TX9 is half alive. More than half. Really. The organic parts are starting to override the mechanical ones. Sam watched this interaction. Finally, he sighed. All right. We will give it a try. But at the first sign of aggression, we activate the kill switches. Understood? Understood, Jake agreed, though the words made him sick. Kill switches. They still saw TX9 as a thing that might need to be turned off. The mission briefing lasted 2 hours. They studied maps of the compound, planned entry routes, discussed contingencies. TX9 watched and listened to everything, its intelligent eyes tracking the holographic displays. TX9 will provide aerial reconnaissance and fire support, Ryan explained. But all weapons use must be non-lethal. We need to see that it can operate with restraint. Jake looked at TX9. Can you do that? Use your abilities without killing? One chirp. Yes. Even under stress? A pause. Then one chirp, though it sounded less certain. The simulation began at dawn. The compound was a collection of buildings surrounded by walls. Enemy drones patrolled the area, programmed to respond like hostile soldiers. The civilian hostages were holographic projections that read as real to sensors. Sam's squad moved in first, approaching the compound on foot. Jake and TX-9 flew above, staying high enough to avoid detection. The morning air was cold, and Jake could feel TX-9's body heat keeping him warm. Enemy drones at 10 o'clock, Sam reported through the comm system. TX-9. Can you disable them? This was the first real test. The drones were armed with weapons. TX-9's instincts would be to destroy them completely. But that was not what they needed. You heard him, Jake said softly. Disable only. Not destroy. TX-9 banked toward the drones. Jake felt the creature's body tense, felt weapon systems powering up. For a moment, he was afraid that TX-9 would lose control. Then TX-9 released a controlled electromagnetic pulse. The drones sparked and fell from the sky, their systems fried, but their structures intact. Not a single lethal weapon had been used. Good work, Sam said, and he sounded genuinely impressed. They continued into the compound. TX-9 spotted enemy positions that the ground team had missed, warning them before they walked into ambushes. The creature used precise EMP bursts to disable electronic systems without causing explosions. When physical force was needed, TX-9 used its claws to crush machinery rather than burn it with fire. Everything was going perfectly. Then the simulation glitched. A programming error caused several combat drones to switch from training mode to full combat mode. They started firing real weapons, not simulations. Laser bolts cut through the air. One hit Nina in the leg, and she went down screaming. Nina is hit, Sam shouted. We need immediate extraction. The drones swarmed, moving to finish their targets. Sam and the others returned fire, but they were pinned down behind cover. Nina was bleeding on the ground, unable to move. TX-9 reacted instantly. Every combat system activated at once. Weapon ports opened across its body. Plasma chambers heated to maximum. Targeting computers locked onto every enemy drone. This was what TX-9 had been designed for. Total war. Complete destruction. Jake felt the change in his partner. Felt the creature's body go rigid with battle programming. TX-9. No. Do not lose control. TX-9. But TX-9 was not listening. The organic brain had stepped back, and the combat computer had taken over. The creature's eyes burned brighter, its growl turning mechanical and cold. Below, Sam saw what was happening. Morrison, get that thing under control. I am trying. Jake grabbed TX-9's neck with both hands. Listen to me. I know what you are feeling. Every program is telling you to destroy those drones, to use maximum force, to kill everything that threatens your squad. TX-9's mouth opened. Plasma built inside, white hot and deadly. But Nina is down there, Jake said urgently. Sam and the others too. If you use full power, the explosion will kill them along with the drones. Is that what you want? TX-9's body trembled. The plasma kept building. You are not a weapon anymore, Jake said, his voice breaking. You are a protector. There is a difference. Weapons destroy. Protectors save. Which one are you? For a long moment, nothing happened. The drones kept firing. Nina kept bleeding. Sam and his team were running out of ammunition. Everything was falling apart. Then TX-9 did something remarkable. Instead of firing the plasma, the creature swallowed it back down. The weapon ports closed. The targeting system switched from lethal to non-lethal mode. TX-9 dove toward the ground, positioning itself between the drones and the wounded soldiers. Its wings spread wide, creating a shield. Drones fired at TX-9, their weapons bouncing off its armored scales. The creature held position, taking hits meant for the humans. At the same time, TX-9 released precise EMP bursts, disabling drones one by one. No explosions, no fire, Just clean, controlled power. In 90 seconds, every enemy drone was on the ground, disabled but intact. Sam stared in disbelief. That dragon just saved our lives. Jake slid off TX-9's back and ran to check on Nina. Her wound was bad, but not fatal. Medical teams were already on their way. Sam walked over to TX-9, who was breathing hard from the effort of restraint. I was wrong about you. You are not a weapon. You are a soldier. And a damn good one. TX-9 chirped softly. That means thank you, Jake translated, wiping tears from his eyes. And it means TX-9 understands what you just said. The simulation ended. Medical teams took Nina to the hospital. Captain Ryan appeared with Ambassador Cathor from the Galactic Council. I have seen enough, Cathor said, his insect mandibles clicking. TX-9 has proven itself beyond any doubt. I will recommend to the Council that it be granted sentient status. Jake felt hope for the first time in months. Really? The Council will still need to vote. But after today, I cannot imagine they will refuse. Your partner has shown remarkable control and courage. TX-9 chirped happily, the sound echoing across the training grounds. The Galactic Council chamber was the largest room Jake had ever seen. It was shaped like a massive bowl, with seats rising up in circles to the ceiling far above. Representatives from hundreds of worlds sat in those seats, creatures of every shape and size imaginable. Some breathed oxygen, some methane, some needed no air at all. All of them were here to decide TX-9's fate. Jake stood in the center of the chamber floor with TX-9 beside him. The creature wore metal bands around its legs, safety devices that could shut down its systems if needed. TX-9 had agreed to wear them without protest, understanding they made others feel safer. Ambassador Cathor stood at the main podium. We are here to determine whether the construct designated TX-9 should be granted provisional sentient status and allowed freedom of movement throughout Council space. A prosecutor named Venel rose from his seat. He was a tall reptile with green scales and cold yellow eyes. This is foolishness. TX-9 is a weapon system created by the Kryn Empire. It has killed 43 people, destroyed 6 ships, leveled an entire city on Kryn Prime. To grant it personhood is to forgive these crimes. A defense lawyer named Lynn Cooper stood up. She was a human woman with gray hair and fierce determination. TX-9 committed those acts while under the control of the Kryn Empire. It was being used as a weapon, not acting of its own free will. Since coming to the preservation station, TX-9 has harmed no one. Instead, it has saved lives and shown remarkable moral growth. Venel hissed. Moral growth? It is a machine. Machines do not grow morally. They follow programming. Morrison has simply reprogrammed this weapon to seem friendly. That is not true, Jake said, speaking up. Several council members looked at him in surprise. Humans rarely spoke without permission in formal proceedings. Cathor's mandibles clicked. You wish to address the council, Morrison? Yes. If I may. Proceed. Jake took a breath. Venel says I reprogrammed TX-9, but I do not know how to program computers. I am a zookeeper. All I did was talk to TX-9. Treat it with respect. Give it choices. And TX-9 responded by choosing to be better than what it was made to be. Pretty words, Venel said, but meaningless. You claim it makes choices, but how do we know? How can we tell the difference between true choice and clever programming? Because TX-9 has chosen things that go against its programming, Jake replied. When Dr. Kelvin Shaw came to the station and gave TX-9 a direct combat command, the old programming tried to take over. But TX-9 refused. It fought its own code and won. That is not programming. That is will. A council member from the far side of the chamber spoke up. It was a being made of living crystal that communicated through light pulses. A translator converted the lights to sound. The human makes an interesting point, but even if TX9 has will, it is still dangerous. What if it chooses violence again? W will. W will. W will. W will. Then it will face justice, Lynn Cooper said. Just like any sentient being that commits crimes. That is what we are proposing. Not freedom without consequence, but legal status that comes with legal responsibility. Vanel laughed, a harsh sound. And who will enforce this justice if TX9 decides to rampage? The creature can destroy starships. It would take an army to stop it. That is why I would remain as TX9's guardian, Jake said. I would be legally responsible for its actions. If TX9 breaks the law, I go to prison too. The chamber erupted in noise. Council members argued with each other in dozens of languages. Cathor had to bang a gavel to restore order. Morrison, do you understand what you are offering? Cathor asked. If TX9 kills someone, you would be charged as an accomplice to murder. You could spend the rest of your life in prison, or be executed, depending on the world where the crime occurred. I understand, Jake said. But I also understand TX9. I trust it with my life. I am willing to prove that trust, in any way necessary. Vanel shook his head. This is insane. We should destroy the creature now and be done with it. No, a voice shouted. Everyone turned to look. Nina Hayes was standing in the observation gallery, her legs still bandaged from the War Games incident. Sam Porter and the rest of his squad stood with her. Who are you? Cathor asked. Lieutenant Nina Hayes, Galactic Defense Forces. TX9 saved my life 6 days ago. Saved all of our lives. That creature had every reason to lose control during the simulation. Every excuse to use lethal force. But it did not. It protected us at risk to itself. Sam stepped forward. I have fought alongside thousands of soldiers. TX9 showed more discipline and courage than most of them. If you destroy it, you are destroying a hero. Vanel's eyes narrowed. The creature saved you because it was following orders. That proves nothing. Aging 1. Then others. With respect, sir, you are wrong, Marcus Stone said. He was the soldier who had lost his squad to a Kryn weapon. I know what Kryn war machines are like when they lose control. I have seen it. TX9 did not just follow orders. It made a choice. A hard choice. To protect instead of destroy. That makes it more than a machine. The council members began debating again. Hours passed. Jake stood with TX9, waiting, hoping. He could feel the creature's fear through their connection. TX9 was trembling slightly, though trying to hide it. No matter what happens, Jake whispered, I am proud of you. TX9 chirped softly. Finally, after 8 hours of debate, Cathor called for a vote. All in favor of granting TX9 provisional sentient status. Indicate now. Lights began appearing across the chamber as council members voted. Green for yes, red for no. Jake watched the lights multiply, his heart pounding. There were so many red lights, but there were green ones too. The counting took 20 minutes. Cathor reviewed the results, his expression unreadable. The vote is complete, he announced. 483 votes in favor. 312 votes against. 67 abstentions. By majority decision, TX9 is hereby granted provisional sentient status. Jake felt his legs go weak with relief. TX9 made a sound of pure joy. A chirp so loud it echoed through the entire chamber. However, Cathor continued, raising a hand for silence. This status comes with strict conditions. TX9 must remain under supervision for 5 galactic standard years. It must wear monitoring devices at all times. It must undergo psychological evaluations every 3 months. And it must have a legal guardian who accepts full responsibility for its actions. Cathor looked directly at Jake. Morrison, are you willing to accept this responsibility? Yes, Jake said without hesitation. Then let it be recorded. Jake Morrison is now the legal guardian of TX9. May the ancestors help you both. The chamber erupted in mixed reactions. Some council members cheered. Others stormed out in protest. Venel threw his datapad on the ground in anger, but Jake did not care about any of them. He turned to TX9 and wrapped his arms around the creature's massive neck. You are free. Do you understand? You are free. Do you understand? You are free. TX9 made that crying sound again, the one Jake had first heard months ago. But this time, it was not a sound of pain. It was a sound of relief, of joy, of hope, finally realized. Lynn Cooper came down to the floor, smiling. Congratulations. You made history today. What happens now? Jake asked. Now you both go home. Well, you need to find a home first. TX9 cannot stay at the preservation station forever. That was always meant to be temporary. TX9. TX9. Jake had not thought that far ahead. Where could they go? What planet would accept a former war dragon? As if reading his thoughts, Captain Ryan approached with Sam Porter. I may have a solution, Ryan said. The military has been looking for ways to rehabilitate war constructs, with TX9 as proof it can be done. They want to start a program. We would need someone to run it. Someone with experience. You want me to train more creatures like TX9? Not just train them, save them. There are dozens of war constructs locked away in military prisons. Most will be destroyed eventually, but if you could help them the way you helped TX9, they might have a chance at life. Jake looked at TX9. What do you think, partner? Want to help others like you? TX9 chirped enthusiastically. One chirp. Yes. Where would this program be based? Jake asked. There is a planet called Haven in the Outer Rim. It was damaged during the war, mostly abandoned now. But it has facilities we could use. Wide open spaces. No civilian populations to worry about. It would be perfect. Jake thought about it. A whole planet to work with. A chance to save more creatures. To give beings like TX9 a second chance at life. All right, he said. We will do it. 6 months later, Jake stood on the surface of Haven, watching the sun set over purple mountains. The planet was beautiful, in a wild way, with strange plants and empty cities slowly being reclaimed by nature. Behind him, the new facility was almost complete. They had built habitats, training grounds, medical centers, everything needed to help war constructs learn to be more than weapons. TX9 was flying overhead, practicing aerial maneuvers with a new arrival. The new creature was called RX-4, a smaller dragon built by a different empire. It was scared and angry, just like TX9 had been at first. But TX9 was being patient, showing RX-4 that it was safe here, that nobody would hurt it, that it could choose a different path. Helen had come to work at the facility too, bringing her expertise in xenobiology. She stood next to Jake now, watching the two dragons fly. I never thought I would see this, Helen said. TX9, teaching another creature. 6 months ago, I wanted to destroy it. Now, I cannot imagine life without it. People can change, Jake said. Even people who were made to be monsters. You did more than change TX9. You gave it a soul. Jake shook his head. No. TX9 always had a soul. I just helped it find its way. TX9 and RX-4 landed nearby. The smaller dragon was still nervous, its systems flickering with anxiety. TX9 chirped softly, a comforting sound. How is our new student? Jake asked. TX9 chirped twice, then once. It was difficult, but there was hope. Good. Hope is enough to start with. Jake walked over to RX-4 and sat down in front of it. The creature growled, showing teeth. I know you are scared, Jake said gently. The people who made you hurt you. forced you to do terrible things. And now you do not know if you can ever be anything else. RX-4's growl softened slightly. But I am here to tell you that you can. You can choose who you want to be. It will not be easy. You will struggle against your programming every day. But it is possible. TX9 is proof of that. RX-4 looked at TX9, who chirped encouragingly. We will work together, Jake continued. You, me, and TX9. We will find the person inside the weapon, and we will set that person free. RX-4 made a small sound. Not a chirp yet, but not a growl either. Something in between. A sound of possibility. Jake smiled. That is a good start. A very good start. As night fell on Haven, Jake looked up at the stars. More ships would come, bringing more creatures that needed help. The work would be hard. Some might fail, might never overcome their programming, but some would succeed, would find freedom like TX9 had, and that made everything worthwhile. TX9 came and lay down next to Jake, its massive head resting on the ground. Jake leaned against the creature's warm side, feeling its heartbeat, both organic and mechanical, steady and strong. You know what the best part is? Jake said. People called me foolish for trying to train you, said it was impossible, that I would die, but they were wrong. The foolish thing would have been to give up, to accept that you were just a weapon and nothing more. TX9 chirped softly. Humans have a saying, fortune favors the bold. But I think it is more than that. Fortune favors those who see potential where others see only danger, who offer friendship where others offer only fear. Above them, RX-4 was testing its wings, flying short distances with TX-9 watching protectively. The new student was already learning, already growing. The galaxy is full of creatures that were made to be weapons, Jake said, but it only has one species crazy enough to believe they can be more. Only humans would try something this foolish. TX-9 made a sound that Jake had learned was laughter. And you know what? We are going to succeed. One creature at a time. We will show the galaxy that anyone can change. That even the most dangerous monster can choose to be a hero. TX-9 stood up and spread its wings. The creature looked at Jake with eyes that no longer burned with rage, but glowed with peace and purpose. Then TX-9 released a cry that rang across the empty planet. Not a roar of war, not a shriek of pain, but a song of freedom. A song that said to any creature listening, to any being trapped by what it was made to be, that there was hope. And somewhere, in the vast darkness between the stars, others heard that song. They wondered if perhaps there was a place for them too. A foolish human who would look at them and see not a monster, but a friend waiting to be found. Jake smiled and walked back toward the facility. Tomorrow, more students would arrive. More creatures needing help. More lives to save. It would be hard work, but he would not be alone. He had TX-9 by his side, and together they would do the impossible. Because that is what humans do. They look at the impossible and say, why not try? And sometimes, just sometimes, the impossible becomes real.